Hello and welcome to the Brotherhood with myself, Graham, and my good friend
Steve.
Welcome back. First off, thanks very much for all of your calls, emails, messages, comments, etc. Highly valuable to give us feedback and obviously to do what the podcast is about doing. So
Yeah. I had a decent phone call last night with somebody who's in a bit of a problem. Hopefully we sorted out. We've helped him out.
Yeah, absolutely. So yeah, keep them coming in, guys. So this is part 3 about. I want to do that again. So this is part 3 of Never in a Million Years. Never in a Million Years because we're talking about male suicide, which is a huge issue, certainly in the UK. So we heard Nigel's story last week, which was quite powerful. So we're going to call this part the recovery. So the next clip is basically how Nigel got himself back on track. And fundamentally, that's the most important thing in all of this, is that there are solutions and there are ways out, and people do come good. So no further ado, we'll introduce the clip and see what you make of it.
Over to Luke.
Yeah, so I had 10 days on a psychiatric ward. After that initial night in hospital, I then went, after those 10 days, went back to my parents' house. And it was really seen as like, this is a short-term thing, and it's that thing, it was clueless. It makes no sense looking at it now. But this will be really short term. I'll be back up on my own feet. I'll sort something out. And that's just not how things go. I went back into therapy. I had big medication, like reassessment. So they were trying different meds on me. And what I hoped, what we thought was going to be short term, me being at my mum and dad's, ended up being almost 6 years. Oh. Yeah, so a long thing, and it's all bits that add in. And my folks were great. They really looked after me. I think a big part of my recovery, I was in therapy. I've had really amazing therapy. I'm training to be a therapist myself. So I obviously really believe in it as a thing. It really changes things. But I was having a difficult relationship with a particular therapist at that point in time, and I left a session and realised I'd been hanging on to this idea that she'd say the right words in the right order, and I'd be fixed. And I was like, I don't think she's going to say it. I don't think it's like a magic spell or, the right... If that's not going to happen, then what do I do? I'm going to have to figure this out myself. And I think it was literally, that was like lunchtime-ish. I got home, I phoned Luke, and I was like, no, I don't know what to do. But I need to start getting well. And the thing I really remember from that, which is something it's not massively in vogue now, but it's this psychological model that's Maslow's hierarchy of needs, so it looks like a triangle, looks like a pyramid. The very top of it is self-actualization. Mm-hmm. That base layer is about how to look after yourself as a human being. So it's eating well in moderation, staying hydrated, looking after your sleep, and exercise. It's basically, as I tell it now, I became my own project, and it was so difficult. It was so painful. Like for the exercise bit, it was just walking to the top of my mum and dad's street and back. But I was exhausted, or it'd be raining, or I just wouldn't want to because I felt awful. But it made all these things about looking after myself in little different bits of ways. They were non-negotiable. And it's like, it doesn't matter that I don't want to do it. I need to do it. It doesn't matter that, I've slept this afternoon. I've napped for 2 hours. I go to bed at 10 o'clock every evening now. Doesn't matter that I'm not tired. I need to, go through those motions. Yeah, and that thing may be part of what I'd had with being depression. With having depression and struggling with that, was like not having any discipline. So if I'd slept all day, I'd stay up all night because I wasn't tired, but I just feel rubbish through it all. But that thing of like, no, now I go to bed at 10 o'clock every night, and that means that I need to do these things to get ready for that. And sometimes, I'd lay there for like 5 hours, just like, well, I'm committing to this. And it was so slow. I think it was probably like an 18-month project. Okay. Yeah, it definitely wasn't like a Rocky montage kind of thing. So slow, but really incrementally, it started to make a difference. Until I realised it snuck up on me. I didn't have that numbness anymore. I felt things again. And it was gradual. It was, but I'd started to come back to being myself.
And I mean, I love that terminology, but you became your own project. And that, for me, that would, if someone was going to put that to me, and I can't imagine for a nanosecond the mind state that you were in at that point, and I would imagine, as you said, you probably dreaded it, and it must have been such a difficult thing to do. But then the upshot to that must have been that after you kind of reached somewhere close to where you wanted to be, the sense of achievement must have been overwhelming, I feel.
It was... So it was gradual. It's one of those things, I think it's one of those journeys where quite often it was 1 step forward, 2 steps back. Okay. And so after I started to feel okay, and I was like, do you know what, I still need support. So I was doing lots of different, what's in my local area, whatever. What do I think might help? I started going to a thing called, what's the Ruby Wax thing called?
Frazzled Cafe.
The Frazzled Cafe.
Okay.
That Ruby Wax, the comedian, set up all across the country. It's just quite an amazing thing. And they were, when I was doing it, I don't know if they still thingy, but Marks and Spencer's, like one afternoon or one evening, a fortnight, had let these groups have their cafeterias. And for some reason, part of... I think I'd started, thinking of like very big questions, like, why am I here? Why have I survived this? Like, what's the point of it? What do I do? Yeah. I'm a fairly easygoing person. For some reason, I'd started like going to job interviews again. And for some reason that I still can't properly explain, I was like, there's no way on earth I'm going to lie and say I was a stay-at-home dad for these years. I was adamant that I've been through this thing, and you know what I'm gonna say when you ask me, there's this massive 5-year hole missing in your employment history. Like, yeah, I had depression and then I attempted suicide. Obviously, that doesn't get you a lot of second interviews.
But that is a monumental thing and a step in your journey, I would imagine. To be able to do that, because as you're saying this, I'm sitting in that chair in that interview thinking, I don't know if I'd be brave enough.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean?
Yeah. And I think it's one of those things. I don't think there should be any shame in that like, you're not a great employer because you're like, do you know what? It maybe you're starting to think, well, you're not a sure thing. I don't know if you're going to struggle again in the future. But that's when education around things come in. None of us are guaranteed things in the future. This this is something that affects so many people. And if we just spoke about it more, if we challenged the stigma around things a lot more honestly and openly, interviewing anyone for any job, you don't know how they're going to be psychologically in 2 years' time.
Okay, what did you make of that, mate?
Well, I think that what I got a lot out of it, and is that it's not a 5-minute job.
No.
And basically what he said, you've all just seen this, and 5 to 6 years, and to carry on the way he did and persevere, it's a pat on the back straight away. I know a pat on the back's nothing to what he's been through, but, brave man.
Totally agree. More interestingly, he's now training to be a therapist.
Yeah.
And as Steve and I said before, because Steve's gone through it I've gone through it with anxiety and panic attacks, etc. Is what or certainly with therapy was in my job in the fire service. And it worked for me, but it didn't work for you.
No.
So, but we would never rebuff anything and say, don't try it, because what works for one may not work for the other, etc., etc. So, like I say, incredible pair of guys who come down, give us their time, and give us their openness as well. Because that really, for me, it really does take some doing. And go into a job interview and actually tell them, well, look, just so you know, this is what happened to me.
Yes.
Is I think is incredible, because I don't think I could do that.
No, I think I would have lied, definitely.
Yeah, and that's just being brutally honest. No, all power to them. So, thanks very much for that, guys. And we look forward to catching up with them.
Yeah, we'll meet them again. Yeah,
they're not too distant.
And see how their men's minds matter.
Men's minds matter. So, let's say visit the website. It's an organisation that looks into male suicide and men's mental health. So, check it out and let us know. So, what we're now going to do, Steve and I, is we're just going to kind of just discuss the friends that we have lost, the effect that it had on us, and the what we will call the ripple effect. So, Steve, your friend James.
Yeah.
How long ago was it, mate?
Jesus, 20 years ago.
20 years.
Yeah. And it's like this, what we said, there's 1,000,000 to 1 chance that he could do something like that. You know what I mean? And basically, he hung himself on the back of the door.
Right.
And if you knew this guy, it would be never do that. He'd never do that. He was a guy had so much charisma. He's at his height for about 6'4". He had everything going for him. Bit of a bully, bit of a ducker and diver. He could be nasty, but the ripple effect on him, is really sad. He had 2 boys, and one boy was classed as a genius. Actually put down on paper as a genius by the age of 10 or something like that, and went to Cambridge and hung himself exactly the same as his dad did. Now the guy had everything going for him, everything. And then does it exactly the same.
And were there any? So your friend James, were there any signs?
No, not at all.
No, not at all.
So, every time I met him, same geezer, liked to pint, liked to fight, liked to duck and dive, handsome guy, bags of women.
Yeah.
Just don't.
Didn't leave a note.
Nothing at all. Yeah, and that's had a ripple effect. Now that takes it to the extreme, as in the ripple effect where you get morose and you get sad and what have you. For your son to so it's got to be that ripple effect. It's just got to him, and so he said, "I'll try this. It's a good way out." Being a genius doesn't mean that you're happy, does it?
No.
He had so much peer pressure. Everybody, and me included, I got on well with the boy. We all expect him to be the future of the world. He's going to be that, and then it just does that. So it's got to be the ripple effect. That's all I'm saying. Yeah.
So okay, thanks for that, mate. So I have a couple of people now. My close friend, I'm not going to go into detail about, and that's out of respect for his family, because ultimately Steve and I were going to do an actual episode on both these gents, On my part, like I say, I'm still very close with my friend's family, and I sat down with his family, a couple of family members, and asked them out straight. And I suppose it's not really a shock because this happened a couple of years back. It's still very raw, and it wasn't something that they really kind of wanted to talk about. So what I'm going to touch on is the ripple effect that it had. A little bit about my friend is that he really was, and I mean this with my whole heart. He really was the nicest guy you could meet. He was the nicest guy you could meet. I never saw him lose his temper. I never, he'd get the ache sometimes with someone cut him up in a car or what.
Don't we all?
But I never saw him lose his rag. He was an absolute social butterfly. He and I, for many, many years, we went golfing, football. He got me into football.
And school friend was your school friend, yeah?
No. So my eldest son started playing kids football.
All right.
And he became friends with my friend's son. And I'd never been into football because when I was growing up in football, it was all about, people getting their heads kicked in and all that sort of stuff. So it didn't really interest me.
Yeah.
And I picked my eldest boy out. I picked Billy up from football, and he said, Dad, he said, Tommy's dad has got tickets to go and watch Charlton.
Oh, all right.
And I was like,
that's where it comes from, was it? Right.
That's where it comes from, yeah. So, and every fibre in my body as a human being was like, I don't want to go and watch football. I really don't want to go and watch football. But as a parent, you kind of go, okay. And I've been a season ticket holder ever since.
Yeah.
And that was probably best part of 20 years ago now. So he got me into football, so we would go to football together. And we were literally, for probably 15, 16 years, we were thick as thieves.
Good stuff.
Thick as thieves. Nicest guy I could ever meet. He was the guy, if I could have an older brother, actually I was older than him, if I could have an older or younger brother, it would be him all day long.
Yeah, cool.
All day long.
Yeah.
So, completely out of the blue, not in a million years would you put my friend on the end of a queue of 1 million, 2 million, 5 million people. And it happened, and I'm not going to describe how it happened, and it happened. The bolt that it sent through the family was immense, and still is. So I met his wife a few weeks back, and it's still very, very, very raw.
I betcha.
4 beautiful kids.
God.
And they're amazing. They're amazing young people. They really are, and they've had to saddle all of this since it happened, up to obviously present day, and they've still got their lives to live.
Sorry, back then the ripple effect there is with the 4 kids. How old are the 4 kids now?
Ranges from 17, I think 17, to. So just to wrap up this episode, I'm going to read something that I wrote and spoke about at my friend's funeral. The reason that I did that was because his children asked me to read something and talk about male suicide. So I'm going to read this to you. It may well resonate with some of you. It may well resonate with all of you. It may resonate with no one. But just, to me, it kind of encapsulates suicide, and it encapsulates, the reason why we're doing this podcast.
Correct.
Penny for your thoughts. I'd give you 1 million more for yours, my friend. Just walk a mile in my shoes. I'd walk 1 million more to keep you safe. It will all turn out okay in the end. But if it doesn't, I'm always here for you. You never know what someone else is thinking. Then tell me and we can solve anything together. If I had to choose from an infinite line of men that would go this way, you would be nowhere near it. Men's mental health has for some time been stigmatised by masculinity, by social status, by financial standing, by workplace position, yet here today, years on from when the man played being provider and the woman a homemaker, we are no further forward in changing the mindset of many who struggle deep down inside and need help. Suicide in the UK is the single largest cause of death for men under the age of 50. So why is that? Why is it that women can talk about their feelings but men can't? I don't have all the answers, but I do know that the younger generation desperately need our help in changing this mindset. So there's a very, very small part to play in changing how we think about vulnerability, how we think about talking to one another, and how we take care of ourselves mentally. I'm staking my claim in front of you all and setting just a small example for my friends' children. For over 32 years in the fire service, I ran into situations that everyone else was running away from. I saved lives, I watched lives being lost, and I have watched grown men hold their nerve whilst deep down they were crumbling inside. In the late 80s, I attended a fire in West London, and after tackling the blaze, found Laura Maddox, a 10-month-old baby girl who had sadly passed. My welfare check at that time was the senior officer on scene making me stand to attention and salute, which confirmed that I was okay. Fast forward to 2004, I lost 2 colleagues at a fire in Bethnal Green Road and was made to sit with therapists and counsellors by the brigade under much protest on my own part following that incident. What were they going to do for me that I couldn't resolve myself? This was nonsense. I'm a leader of men. I save people. I'm a firefighter. This is an absolute waste of my time. Thankfully, for nearly 2 years, I sat, talked and cried and went to darker places in my mind than I could ever have imagined. I came out the other side a different person, a different firefighter, a different partner, a different father and a different friend. As a senior officer years on, I suffered from anxiety, panic attacks and mood swings caused by years of trauma, but talking to people I suddenly realised that I wasn't alone in all of this. Men don't like to feel vulnerable, but vulnerability is sometimes a good thing, as it allows friends and loved ones to see that you're hurting deep down and they can act on it. They say that talk is cheap, but talking is free. Talking can resolve any situation, no matter how bad you think it is or how unsolvable it seems. Talking will get you through. And you never know, but it might just save your life one day. So please give us feedback, what your thoughts are. If you have any thoughts on that. I've not read it since the service, so that was a little bit of a toughie for me to do, but I've done it. And yeah, it's like I say, it's we like to have fun on this show, and we like to kind of, soften the mood. This has been probably the most testing one for us. Definitely. Personally. What are we going to be talking about in a couple of weeks?
Marriage. And
marriage. I had to think about that.
No, I didn't, because I got very emotional listening to you, and I'm thinking why the kids grow up and what have you. There's one we should want to tackle as it goes, is bullying.
Yes. Yeah.
That's something I'm going through at the moment, not being bullied myself, but it's a huge subject, I think, because, what you said about the kids is what's happening to them when they're being bullied will affect them in their later life.
Yeah, absolutely.
And my theory is, if you're a bully at school, you're going to be a fucking bully all your life.
Yeah,
so I think that's a biggie. So the next one would be marriage.
Marriage, okay. Yeah. So as we said, this was always going to be a tough one, but it was one that we wanted to tackle. Yeah. Give us your thoughts, give us your feedback, give us a call if you're suffering. Samaritans 116123. If you want to speak to me or Steve, it's 07762 99 1973. Numbers are up on the screen. Give us a call if you need to talk. We'll sit and listen. Thanks very much for that, mate. Thanks for sharing.
Yep. No, I think you've done great, mate. I really do. I really do. And hopefully, when we I know, not hopefully, when we tackle this marriage, we'll be back on form. And we just couldn't even do one little ditty, really.
No. It's just not suitable. So listen. Boys, girls, everyone out there who watches the show, thanks for watching, and look after yourselves and definitely look after each other. And if you see someone that looks a bit distressed, they probably are, just put your hand on them. You all right, pal? Pat them on the back. You okay? Do you need to talk? Can I help? That's it. It's as easy as a minute out of your day. Thanks very much, mate. And we'll see you guys and girls in a couple of weeks. A couple of weeks' time. Look after yourselves. Take care. Bye-bye. Bye-bye.